Alex Eala's unexpected appearance with Roger Federer at the 2026 Australian Open.
Listen to me very closely and brace yourself for what is about to happen, because the sun-drenched desert of California has absolutely no idea what is about to hit it. We are just days away from the opening serves at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, and a massive, unstoppable shockwave is currently tearing through the West Coast. The Filipino community is mobilizing in staggering, overwhelming numbers that this historic tournament has simply never ever seen before. Tickets are vanishing into thin air. Entire sections of the massive stadium are being bought out and aggressively booked in massive groups, and the wealthy seasoned tournament directors sitting in their corporate offices are reportedly completely stunned. Staring at their screens in absolute disbelief at what they are witnessing, the prestigious tournament they call the Fifth Grand Slam is about to be violently transformed into something completely different. It is about to become a global cultural festival. Do you truly believe Alex Eala has what it takes to shatter the draw and reach the semifinals at Indian Wells this year? And do you believe deep down that this highly organized, deeply passionate Filipino crowd in California is about to become the absolute loudest, most terrifying fan base the Coachella Valley has ever experienced? Drop your boldest predictions in the comments right this very second. Now, let us sit down and talk about what is actually unfolding in California right now, because the sheer unprecedented scale of this movement deserves to be understood properly, and it cannot be cheaply summarized in a single 30-second social media post. Alex Eala is officially in the main draw of the BNP Paribas Open at Indian Wells. And listen to me. She did not sneak in through the grueling qualifying rounds. She was not handed a polite, charitable wildcard by the organizers. She kicked the front door down and entered entirely through the raw, undeniable power of her own ranking, world number 31, a heavy, prestigious ranking that she earned in blood, sweat, and absolute resilience, violently climbing from no 137 all the way to 31 in roughly 12 short months. She did it through a series of jaw-dropping results that forced the entire tennis establishment to stop, turn around, and pay very close attention. The breathtaking run to the Miami Open semifinals, the absolute masterclass in the Dubai quarterfinals, where she dismantled the world number 8 Jasmine Paolini with a ruthless 6-1, 7-6 scoreline, the brilliant Auckland semifinals, the Abu Dhabi quarterfinals, a legendary gold medal at the Southeast Asian Games, the triumphant Australian Open main draw debut. She earned her sacred spot at Indian Wells the absolute hardest way possible, the only way that actually means a damn thing in this cutthroat sport. And the tournament organizers have been nervously watching the ticket sales, the hospitality bookings, and the VIP reservations explode ever since her entry was officially confirmed. What they are seeing in their data has apparently left them genuinely fundamentally shocked. You have to understand the geography of this moment. California is home to the absolute largest Filipino diaspora in the entire United States of America. The Filipino-American community in this massive state is colossal. They are highly organized. They are fiercely, incredibly passionate about their sports. And they have been holding their breath, waiting for a historic moment exactly like this one, for generations. A player who proudly wears the flag of the Philippines, actively competing and dominating at the absolute highest, most terrifying levels of international tennis, right in their own backyard. And she is not just showing up to politely compete, she is winning. She is breaking historic records. She is being openly called the single biggest draw in the entire sport by former top 10 professionals. She is having her portrait proudly hung in the hallowed halls of the Nike World headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, with a heavy, powerful caption that simply reads, "History in full bloom." That incredibly rare lightning-in-a-bottle combination of supreme sporting success and deep cultural significance has triggered an atomic response from the Filipino community in California. It is a tsunami of support that the Indian Wells Tennis Garden has simply never encountered in its rich, decades-long history. Devoted fan clubs stretching from the sprawling streets of Los Angeles down to San Diego and all the way up to Daly City are aggressively organizing massive group bookings. Entire massive sections of the stadium bleachers are being fully reserved by community groups who have one single unified goal to create the exact same deafening wall of sound that turned Dubai into a massive Filipino celebration. A wall of sound so intimidating, so powerful, that it actually forced American superstar Coco Gauff to stop, look up into the stands, and publicly acknowledge the terrifying power of the crowd after her quarterfinal battle with Eala. The secondary ticket market for the specific sessions, when Alex Eala is mathematically expected to play, has already completely caught fire. Prices are surging wildly above face value. Some basic seats are reportedly going for double, even triple, their original cost, just so fans can be in the exact same zip code as her. This is the brutal, undeniable economic reality of the Alex Eala effect finally arriving on American soil, and it is catching the tournament's commercial executives completely off guard. Because absolutely nothing in their decades of historical data Nothing in their algorithms prepared them for a player ranked 30th in the world, generating this insane, unprecedented level of rabid market demand. For heavy context, Indian Wells is universally called the 5th Grand Slam, and that title is fiercely earned. The prize pool for 2026 exceeds a staggering $9 million. The playing field includes absolutely every major terrifying name in women's tennis. Aryna Sabalenka, the current world number one ruthless multiple Grand Slam champion. Iga Swiatek, a generational talent who has spent years dominating the pinnacle of the sport. Mira Andreeva, the lethal defending champion. The official entry list reads like an absolute who's who of the sport's current elite royalty. These are legendary players who have spent years building the reputations, the brands, and the results that command premium television ratings and prime court assignments at a tournament of this massive stature. And right there, sitting dead in the middle of that terrifying list of giants, is Alex Eala, world number one. A 20-year-old phenom who is actively generating more raw ticket interest and more pure emotional investment from a single demographic than all the established, legendary names on paper are generating from the general tennis audience. That is not a small casual statement. That is a complete violent inversion of the normal commercial logic of professional tennis. And it is happening right now, in real time, right in front of our eyes. But the incredible journey to this desert showdown went through Beaverton, Oregon first, before heading down to the heat of California. Eala made a highly strategic stop at the Nike World headquarters, and the royal reception she received inside those walls set the ultimate tone for everything that is about to explode at Indian Wells. Her portraits were proudly displayed in the famous heavily guarded Nike tunnel, right alongside the greatest, most immortal athletes the billion-dollar brand has ever represented. One massive portrait captured her iconic emotional expression immediately after reaching the Miami Open semifinals. Both hands pressed against her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. The raw, unfiltered emotion of a warrior who had just done something that exceeded even her own wildest expectations. The caption, "History in Full Bloom," was chosen deliberately because a global titan like Nike does not caption things carelessly. They know exactly what they are looking at. Also displayed in that hallowed tunnel was a photograph of Eala taking a smiling selfie with a massive crowd of Filipino fans. That specific image tells you absolutely everything you need to know about what Nike understands regarding why this partnership works so brilliantly. They are not just investing millions of dollars in a talented athlete, they are investing in an entire global community that physically shows up for her in the thousands, everywhere she goes on Earth. Putting that specific fan photo on the wall at their global headquarters is a massive corporate statement. It is Nike telling the world that the Alex Eala story is infinitely bigger than individual athletic achievement. It is a moving, breathing cultural movement with a fan base that travels across oceans and fundamentally transforms the commercial reality of every single tournament she enters. And the specific timing of the Oregon visit was highly intentional. Eala arrived early in the United States specifically to give herself crucial extra preparation time for the brutal conditions waiting for her at Indian Wells. The California desert creates a very specific, highly unforgiving playing environment. The air is bone dry. The altitude dramatically affects the flight of the tennis ball. The gritty courts play entirely differently than the smooth surfaces she encountered during the Middle East and Oceania swings earlier this year. Getting to the United States before most of the European players have even packed their bags, getting perfectly acclimatized to the time zone, getting deeply familiar with the aggressive surface conditions. These are the microscopic, razor-thin margins that actually matter at a massive tournament where every single player in the draw is operating at an elite lethal level. Do not forget, the Rafa Nadal Academy gave her 7 grueling years of elite training in a harsh environment built on meticulous, obsessive preparation and a relentless punishing work ethic. That unbreakable foundation shows in exactly how she approaches each and every campaign. She is not someone who casually shows up the day before a match, unpacks her bags, and just hopes for the best. She is a tactician. She plans ahead. She prepares for highly specific atmospheric conditions, and this early arrival in the United States, seamlessly combined with the psychological boost of the Nike headquarters visit, represents exactly that kind of ruthless, intentional preparation, and the sheer preparation and the sheer mathematical significance of entering Indian Wells with a top 30 ranking, rather than fighting through the brutal trenches of qualifying, cannot possibly be overstated for her long-term tournament survival. Players who are forced to go through the qualifying rounds arrive to the main draw already battered and bruised. Having already played multiple high-stress, high-pressure matches, they are carrying heavy physical fatigue. They have already burned through physical and emotional energy that the direct entry players have safely conserved. Last year in Miami, Eala came through the absolute bloodbath of qualifying and miraculously reached the semifinals, which is an extraordinary, almost impossible achievement. But it also meant that she played significantly more total matches, under vastly more cumulative physical pressure than any of the elite players she defeated along the way. This year at Indian Wells, the script is flipped. She arrives incredibly fresh. She arrives deeply rested. She arrives after 2 full weeks of physical recovery following her deep run in Dubai. And she arrives having visited the Nike headquarters, which injected her with a pure psychological rocket fuel that no amount of endless practice court time can ever replicate. Seeing your own face blown up on the wall at the most famous, powerful athletic brand headquarters in the entire world, right alongside legendary athletes, whose names literally define what greatness means in the dictionary, that tells you something about your own destiny, that physical training alone can never communicate. Make no mistake, the opposition waiting for her in the desert is absolutely formidable. The top seeds at Indian Wells represent some of the most accomplished, terrifying players in the entire history of the women's game. Aryna Sabalenka at world number 1 has been a dominant, unstoppable force of nature for years. Iga Swiatek has held the crown for extended historic periods and remains the most complete, terrifying tactician on the tour. Mira Andreeva is hungry to defend her championship crown at this very event. Any single one of them, on their best day, is capable of absolutely destroying anyone else in the field. But listen to me, the hushed conversation echoing around the locker rooms about Alex Eala at Indian Wells is not really about whether she can step up and beat the world number 1 in straight sets in her very first match. It is about what happens over the course of 2 grueling weeks, when a player with her explosive profile, her lethal current form, her rabid fan base, and her massive psychological momentum enters a tournament draw and starts violently moving through the rounds. The players who are unlucky enough to have to face her at these events in the future will have to do it while standing in front of thousands upon thousands of screaming Filipino fans. Fans who will be creating deafening noise levels that the Indian Wells tournament directors have absolutely never experienced during regular draw rounds. That is a genuinely, fundamentally different psychological competitive environment, and it heavily unfairly favors the player whose devoted supporters are the ones making the ground shake. Sam Querrey, Steve Johnson, and their highly publicized conversation about Alex Ayala's massive drawing power being significantly bigger than Joao Fonseca's was on the men's side last year, have been proven absolutely 100% right at every single tournament so far in 2020. The passionate crowds in Auckland were remarkable. In Melbourne, they completely shattered records. In Abu Dhabi, the atmosphere was thick and electric. In Dubai, Coco Gauff herself literally had to address the stands during her post-match interview, actively thanking the Filipino fans for being there and for completely transforming the sterile energy of the entire tournament. But California is on a different scale entirely. The Filipino community here is not a small, dedicated group of enthusiastic travelers who made a special weekend trip. It is a massive, established, deeply rooted, highly organized diaspora that has been waiting for this exact specific moment, with building, suffocating anticipation, ever since Ayala's legendary Miami run last year made it crystal clear to the world that she was genuinely capable of competing with and destroying the best tennis players on the planet. The tournament organizers, who are currently sitting in their offices reportedly in shock at the violent ticket surge, are not dealing with a temporary fleeting spike in interest that will magically normalize once the official draw is released. They are dealing with a massive, permanent structural change in exactly who attends their elite event and why they are spending their money. The executives of tennis in the United States have been desperately working for years, spending millions of dollars on marketing, trying to attract more diverse audiences and reach minority communities that have historically not engaged heavily with the country club sport of tennis. Alex Eala single-handedly accomplished that impossible goal in a single season, without a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign, without a coordinated corporate outreach strategy, and without doing absolutely anything other than winning brutal tennis matches, and carrying herself with the exact kind of quiet dignity, fierce loyalty, and lethal competitiveness that makes an entire nation of people incredibly proud to associate themselves with her incredible story. The ticket prices currently skyrocketing on the secondary market represent massive, real-world dollars flowing directly into the Indian Wells economic ecosystem, coming from a demographic that was simply not previously generating that kind of financial activity at professional tennis events. The food vendors, the merchandise operations, the luxury hospitality suites, the massive parking structures. Every single commercial touchpoint of this massive tournament is going to physically feel the heavy impact of thousands of passionate Filipino fans descending on the California desert like an army. And when Alex Eala finally walks out of the tunnel and steps onto that purple court for her very first match of the tournament, she is not going to be walking out there alone. She will have a massive, deafening, vibrating wall of blue, red, yellow, and white standing right behind her. She will hear her name chanted and screamed in a way that most seasoned veterans ranked in the top 10 have never ever heard their name chanted at this famously polite tournament. She will be playing in an intense, hostile atmosphere that makes every single opponent standing across the net feel like they are the away team playing in an enemy stadium. Tennis legend Kim Clijsters recently said that Alex Eala has to deal with the heavy, suffocating pressure of living a life like Michael Jordan in the Philippines. Well, in California, she is about to find out exactly what it feels like to have that exact same terrifying Beatlemania-level energy transferred directly onto American soil.